Hello listeners, thank you for joining me again for this week's episode of Let's Talk About. I am waiting at the moment for the arrival of Lindsay Spencer from the Stanthorpe Fruit Company, and he is coming down here to talk to me about food waste again. As you probably know if you've watched any of my other videos, I am very passionate about reducing food waste. And what Lindsay has done has been very unique in that he wanted to work with the farmers in this local area and understand what their problems were and find a way to fix them. And when he got out there, he noticed that the small farmers in particular had a lot of apples that were going to waste because they couldn't be graded properly. And he takes a lot of those apples that are perfectly good, but because they can't be graded properly, Coles and Woolworths and big companies like that won't accept them and won't sell them. And they end up, it's not worth their while actually picking the apples, and they end up dropping off the tree and rotting on the ground, which is not bad for the trees. But I still think if the farmer's going to go to all that effort to grow the fruit, wouldn't it be great if it got out to the people? So yeah, we're talking a lot about that. We cover a few different topics. We talk about innovation and changes in the food industry and science and research and where it's going with climate and transport and everything. So very interesting chat, I think, and I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to this week's episode of Let's Talk About. Today I have Lindsay Spencer.
Hi.
Yes, with me. And we are going to have a bit of a talk about business, life, food waste, future, all sorts of things. So Lindsay's had a very varied and interesting upbringing. Born in England, moved from England to
Australia, Saudi Arabia, New Zealand, and then back here.
In Australia, yeah. And so, he's lived in places like in Saudi Arabia as a child where his family was involved in something that was quite a little bit dangerous for the place and the time, with helping people, but from a Christian background.
Yep, so my parents were missionaries over there, and we ran a little underground church. They're still looking for us.
Don't go back.
But that was quite an experience that I didn't probably quite understand when I was younger. I understand a little bit better now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And one of the things that Lindsay shared with me before was that experience has really embedded in him this really deep desire to help people and get himself sorted first and then do whatever he can to help people. And that's really been from when you were in a fruit and veggie department of a store and you decided that fruit and veggies were like your thing, and it became your thing from a very young age. But then you're bringing that into how to help people at the same time. There's like this convergence of you're in the fruit and veggie industry and you're helping people and farmers right now.
Exactly. Just whoever I can,
Yeah. So one of the things that Lindsay did was he worked on the farm for a little while. His cousin worked out on the farm. Your dad was there for a couple of days or something.
A couple of days picking apples. Back in the day,
Yep. And he decided he wanted to be in the fruit and veggie industry and decided he wanted to get in front of some farmers to really talk to them and understand what their issues and their problems were, and could see that small farmers in particular really, really struggled with making a business really out of their farms that they've put their heart and soul in, and there's so much waste and being screwed over by companies that come in at the end of the season and offer ridiculous sums of money that make it not worth their while to even pick the fruit. So then the next season the fruit just falls to the ground. So Lindsay was selling fruit at the markets, selling apples from these little farms at the markets. And since then we've been working together bringing some of those apples from the farms, the ones that the supermarkets won't sell because, they're the wrong shape, or they're the wrong colour, or they're the wrong something, whatever it is, but they're perfectly good apples.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with them. And we're, making juice out of them, and we're finding ways to get these apples that were potentially waste out to people in a way where they're still very nutritious, and it's really helping the farmers make it worth their while to even keep their farm. Yeah. So Lindsay, would you like to add to any of that? I know I did a very, very high level gloss, but is there anything that you think I missed in that?
Yeah, so I mean, I just feel that the small farmer always gets screwed. A lot of people like to say, I've heard two sides of it. A lot of people say, don't feel sorry for farmers, they're making a lot of money. And others say, we need to support every single farmer in Australia. Truth is, to me anyway, you can get quite involved in a farm from a very young age, especially if it was owned by your parents and it's a couple of generations old. Some people these days are fourth, fifth, sixth generation. I mean, there's even bigger ones, but in my opinion, some people farming isn't for them, and maybe they were born to be something else. Unfortunately, they don't really have a choice. They have to make payments on these things every year. They're forced to continue producing, and I've heard many stories of farmers that don't even really want to do it. They've been doing it for 50 years because they don't really have a choice. A lot of Chinese companies are coming in at the minute and offering not huge amounts of money for these small farmers' farms, and a couple of them are taking the offer because they just want to get out of the industry. In saying that, there are plenty of passionate small, medium and large farmers all over Australia, and some of them are in genuine need of a better system.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues that could be addressed. For me, what we're trying to tackle is fruit quality. So if you can identify the fruit quality of a farmer's product, you can properly price the high quality stuff, and you can properly deal with the waste and the second grade stuff as well. If you're sending first grade fruit down as second or third grade, you're losing money. If you're sending second grade fruit down as first grade, you'll get cut off and they won't deal with it anymore. It all comes down to making sure you can sort it properly. Fortunately, the sorting equipment is worth millions of dollars, and farmers normally have to pay to get a packing shed to do it for them. So we're doing a little bit of homework on trying to come up with a automatic apple grading system that is basically based on technology that is only going to cost a couple $1,000s. We're hoping to have a prototype completed by the end of the year, and we fully intend to give the plans out on the internet for free. It's based on image recognition. A recent study in 2016 on an automatic apple grading system using image recognition produced results of 76 to 90% accuracy. Using cameras alone, maybe $500 worth, we're going to create a ring that the apples fall through, with many cameras staring at it in the center, and we're going to use the image recognition technology provided for free by Google as of about a year ago to process this and sort the apples. We should be able to create the system for about $5,000, which is so much cheaper than any other apple grading system out there. And it would bring me great pleasure to know that small farmers all over the world and not just apple orchards, of many different types of fruit this could be applied to, that they could use this technology.
It's awesome. That is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons that I've really enjoyed working with you, Lindsay, is that you've taken it from that approach of, I see a problem, how can I fix it? And it's not about, I'm out here to make a quick buck and get what I want and then run. It's like there's a long-term goal, there's long-term issues, and by doing these things, by coming up with ways for small farmers to sort apples and ways to help these small farmers even just survive to get through this time is such a better long-term approach, and is just so much more supportive to the community, I think. And I think it's really giving back.
Well, as you spoke about earlier, it's really inefficiencies in the food production industry that are leading to, starvation all over the world. As you said, we do produce enough food all over the world to feed everyone, but it doesn't get to the right place, and a lot of it goes to waste.
Yeah.
And these are the sorts of things that need to be fixed. I think it's the kind of thing that's very much going to take many, many years. I think it starts with projects like the one that your company is working on. Yeah. What was the name of the?
Love to.
Love to. Yeah. It's things like that I think are going to make the changes on a small scale to start with. There's a lot to be done, and a lot of problems that can be sorted out, varied and across many different subjects. So I feel like we all have a lot of work to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And I think as well that, when different people find each other that are aligned with the same goals and the same, looking for the same outcomes, then it's important to really develop that and go, well, how can we work together? What's that going to look like? What can we do? What's that part that we can do? Because I think it's more and more of this developing between businesses and the people who are behind those businesses. That's going to be the driver of that change. Because it's all really about collaborating to get better ways of doing things for the future, rather than thinking, I'm a business and all I've got to do is like deal with my suppliers, deal with my customers, and that's it. It's not. It's more of a cooperation.
Absolutely. And as I was saying earlier as well, I think it's important that businesses are actually achieving something and not just making money. Makes me hate businesses that are based on the gambling industry or any other industry that's just kind of pointless and doesn't really have a place in society to do any good.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there.
Yep.
It's just a couple. Gambling's one of them.
Few industries, yeah.
Yeah. But so because we talked before about what's that thing that's going to make the biggest change, you think? And I think you asked me the question, and I told you what I thought, but what I want to know is, what do you think is going to be the thing that makes the biggest difference to our food system and how we get it out and what we do about it? Like, your fruit shop idea was fantastic, I think.
Okay, so just to fill everyone in, that's we want to make a fruit shop that can grow all of its food that it sells on top of it, stacked in vertical farms. I don't know enough about vertical farms to know whether that's possible. I have looked into hydroponically growing basically everything you can think of, and it definitely gets difficult once you move into things like apples. It can get very complicated to actually grow all this stuff on top of something in the same climate. So it might be a terrible idea. But in concept, I think it's pretty good. What I actually think is going to make the biggest difference is the current move towards green energy, specifically electric-powered cars and transportation that doesn't rely on fossil fuels and coal or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think people generally have an issue with California is really good at growing oranges, but the oranges should stay in California. But it is true that it is more efficient to grow things on a massive scale and to grow them in a climate and a place and in the right soil that's perfect for it. Doesn't mean that we should grow every orange in California, but there are probably many places all over the world that have the same sort of conditions. What we need to do is release ourselves from the idea that what you're eating needs to be grown a kilometre away. Of course, fossil fuel and the terrible way that we transport everything around the world is going to cause a lot of problems, for the environment, and it already has. But I think once we can move away from the types of transportation that cause these problems, that the food industry will become a lot more efficient as we can start to actually efficiently transport food all over the world. I think you'll find that, in places like Africa, their diet is very much determined by what they can grow in Africa. And I've always kind of said, really naively, that if people are starving in Africa, we ought to stop sending food over there. Maybe we just need to bring the people over here. I don't know enough about Africa to make any respectful comments about any of it. But my thought is, some places in the world it's hard to grow anything at all. So why are we living there?
Yeah. Yeah, but even then, some places in the world, if we eat what's local and natural, you develop a body that can deal with that. For, say, example, like the Eskimos. They don't grow green leafies, they don't, and they've survived for thousands and thousands of years on fish and, fatty proteins. But their body can handle that. And they've evolved in that way. In Africa, I did go to Africa just recently, and I was I was in Cape Town and in the Madikwe Game Reserve up there.
Oh, cool.
And, at the Tau Resort, which is a beautiful place, really, really gorgeous, right on the border of Botswana. And I've never eaten so much meat in my life. Like it was so much meat. Very, very few fruits and vegetables because, like I said, they can't grow them.
Of course, yeah.
But they have a lot of grazing animals. And I think that, and I don't know enough about Africa again to be able to say, with a hand on my heart, this is the problem. This is how we fix it. But what I can see there is they have so many social and political issues that impacts on how the food is distributed.
Absolutely.
And, so I don't think that they necessarily can't feed their population, but in the way that they are doing it right now, they can't feed their population.
Well, I think if you take a broader look at the issues, in a healthy political climate like we have here in Australia, we can't even get healthcare right. So food production and distribution in South Africa, where they're having serious political problems, it's surprising they can get anything done at all.
I totally agree with the green energy and changing the way that we do our distribution so that it's much more environmentally friendly. I have a friend who's actually looking into a thing at the moment, and you might like to learn about this.
Sure.
It's a plasma, I don't know exactly, it's like a plasma incinerator.
Okay.
And you can put any type of waste into it, like car tyres, food, plastics, metals, you name it, anything into it. And it uses some sort of plasma that burns it to produce a biodiesel and water and something else. And it's so efficient in the way that it does it that it needs very, very minimal energy input, because once it starts producing, the byproducts become the energy input for continuing the system.
Wow.
And it's like, it was, when I was being told, I haven't looked much into it, but it sounds amazing. And apparently these systems, there's a prototype that's in operation right now. And you don't have to change the cars at all. But if you produce the biodiesel through this system, it's a really super green way of producing diesel without using fossil fuels.
And so would this be aimed at consumers, and they use it sort of instead of compost? They throw their waste food away and I guess their entire rubbish bin.
Yep. Yeah.
I like it.
So all sorts of waste. You throw bricks from an old building in there. You could throw, just everything in there. Yeah, it sounds really amazing, and I'd love to. I want to look into it more because I have only heard about it really recently. But
well, tell me about it when you find out.
Yeah, the innovations that people are making are just going ahead in like leaps and bounds. I think in ways and means, because this system is carbon negative as well. So it's actually,
it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It. Oh, that's what one of them does actually. It draws carbon dioxide out of the air.
Oh.
Oh God, this was another one. There was like two. Sorry, there was the plasma one and the carbon dioxide one, and the carbon dioxide one drags carbon dioxide out of the air and converts it into a diesel. So there's amazing innovations going on out there.
Sounds like they can turn anything into diesel these days.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. And, like if you think about that, with, electric cars are a great idea, but we don't have the infrastructure.
To like recharge them.
Yeah. And in Australia, could you imagine driving from here to Townsville in an electric car?
How far is Townsville? 800 k's? Something like that?
It's closer to 1,600.
Oh, yeah.
Long way away.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I've never even looked at an electric car. I just assume that they have a bigger battery than a normal car, don't they? I mean, obviously. But aren't they actually pretty small? Like the batteries, like they're only, I don't know how big they are. But yeah, they like, considering how long they've had electric cars here in Australia as well. I mean, I think Tesla's the only company, but you'd think that you'd see, servos maybe just popping up with you can recharge your car here, and I feel like that'd be something reasonably simple to add. And it's been a couple of years, and I haven't seen any of it.
No, it's not happening, is it?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. No.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of glad that since Tesla's kind of come along, there is finally a company that is kind of doing it. And you always hear about the guy that invented, a water-powered car or whatever, and then he's murdered by the FBI, CIA or whatever, and you don't know that how true this is or whatever, but you think they've had the ability to make electric cars for a while. Why haven't they done it? So seems like they're going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, one big innovation that they're coming up with, Tesla is just about, I think they've either released it or just about to release the electric truck, and that will... Like a lot of companies in America have pre-ordered, hundreds of these because it's just right off the bat going to save them so much money, and it's really great for the environment. The other thing they're probably going to be moving towards is self-driving trucks soon, and once we get there, I think people underestimate how much of an effect the transportation industry has on the price of everything. Do you remember the carbon tax when it came out 5 or 6 years ago? Mm-hmm. And it raised the price of everything because it affected fuel prices in the transportation industry. Once everything's being transported using renewable energy automatically, I think we're going to see a big shift from people saying, I need to eat the beans that were grown in my front yard here, which I have no issue with. I think it's great. But yeah, I think there's going to be a shift once it becomes cheaper and much better for the environment to move things around.
And yeah, with that, because like I do like the thought of eating local. I like the idea that things are grown right close to me.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. It does. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does make a lot of sense. But also, I think that the fix to the problem is not going to be one thing. Bringing through systems that bring local produced food closer to massive populations is a part of it, but then having particular areas of land that are very good at growing particular things, and then having a really, really super efficient delivery system to get to people, that's the other part, I think. And I think that it's anyone that thinks that there's a one size fits all one solution doesn't see how complex the problem really is.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why no billionaire philanthropist has pointed at an easy solution. Yeah.
So right now you're selling at the markets. You've got apples that you collect from the farm and you're selling at the market. You've got a few other little projects on the go. Is there any of them that you'd like to share of where you're at and where you're going with some of your projects that you're working on?
Yeah. So I mean, we like to provide apples to consumers around Brisbane at a fair price, and a price that where the farmers receive a price that they're happy with, and find that efficient middle ground where it kind of works for everyone. So we've been doing that for a couple of years. We have couple thousand customers across the state. On top of that, we produce some juice. We're about to start producing a lot more juice with you guys.
Yeah.
We sell that juice to cafes, and we've recently started providing juice to a brewery. And we're hoping to start coming up with some really interesting new blends that your company is going to be providing us. Apart from that, in terms of money-making ventures, not really. That's about it. We're pretty. We're pretty happy with what we're doing. Yeah.
And so, if someone wanted to find you, how would they find you?
We're pretty bad with social media and marketing in general. They would have to come down to the markets and see us.
Okay. What markets are you at, and when, and where?
Okay, so Saturdays every week we're at Carseldine Market, Yandina Market, Burleigh Heads Market. Once a month we're at Nanango on Saturday, and on Sunday we're at Milton Market, Nundah Market, and as of this week we're at Redcliffe Market as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's where to find you.
Yep.
And when they find you, they can get apples. What else?
So stone fruit season has just begun. Nectarines, apricots, cherries, plums, peaches. We also sell pears, and that's about it.
Yep. Cool. That's good. Well, yes, watch this space. We're going to be doing some blends of apple and nectarine and apple and peach.
Yes.
And they're all fruits that we're going to go to waste as well. And they're all, so, we're really focusing on getting that what would be waste and turning it into something that a person can consume, and you're not worried about a spot on the edge of your peach. So
that's the thing, is that it's not bad quality fruit. It's just it is literally hard to eat because it's so ripe. Unfortunately, that's your problem now.
Yeah. I can deal with that.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, I reckon we've covered a fair bit today. And is there anything else that you'd like to say? Anything you'd like to add at all?
Not really, no. Except that I would, anyone that wants to talk about any of this stuff, to give me a call.
Yeah.
I'm always available.
All right. So how do they call you? What?
Well, I'm sure that my number could be provided somewhere.
Yeah, I can put it in the show notes. Yep.
Give me a call.
Cool. All right. Phone number will be in the show notes. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate traveling all the way down here.
That's fine, Michelle. And just so everyone knows, I was really late.
Yeah.
And Michelle's a lovely host.
Thank you. Thanks. No, I really appreciate it. And so it was really good talking to you. And it'll be exciting what we get to work on in the future, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
Bye. Well, I hope that you really enjoyed that chat. I thought that we had quite an interesting discussion about a number of topics that were really quite interesting and have definitely given me food for thought on areas to look into and discover a little bit more information about. So next week I will be talking about nutritional psychology and talking about how nutrition impacts on mental health, also how fermented foods impact on mental health, also how foods being absorbed when you eat them impact on your mental health and how that works in your gut-brain and your gut-brain axis, and a few other bits and pieces will be in next week's episode of Let's Talk About. Look forward to seeing you then. Bye.